The first page of a new sketchbook. One of the most exciting and yet terrifying struggles that every artist faces when they crack into that beautiful, fresh, pristine bound paper. I'm going to show you how I tackle the anxiety of messing up your first page, as well as giving you some tips on how you can apply it to make your own beautiful page one. I'm super excited because I'm trying out a brand new sketchbook. It's actually the ELO sketchbook. It's a bit on the pricey end. I think it was like $17, which is only going to make my first page anxiety worse. Okay, but I've been on the lookout for a sketchbook that has a hardcover, lays completely flat, and has good paper. And I think this might be it, so I'm kind of excited. And if it lives up to those expectations, I think the price will be worth it for me because, I don't know, I just find it so much more fun. But the funny thing about this sketchbook is it's actually got square pages, which it says is for like taking Instagram photos or whatever, but I don't know. I've never used a square sketchbook before. Oh, and of course it's got a pocket, so that's pretty fun. Anyway, on to the tips. Tip number 1. Think before you plunge. So you're scared of messing up that first page. Don't jump in too early. Decide what you're gonna draw before you do it. And I know what you're thinking. Sometimes it looks so good in my head, but then when I put it down onto the paper, it makes me want to rethink my life. Well, I've got a tip for you. It's called thumbnails, okay? So basically a thumbnail is just where you draw your idea in a miniature version. Pretty simple, right? And it's actually a lot of fun drawing really tiny little doodles because I don't know, it gives me the satisfaction of drawing something big, but small and fast. You can skip ahead to page 2 and start making tiny little sketches of what you want page 1 to look like. I actually did my page 2 thumbnail sketches on this inner cover because, I don't know, it was just this boring yellow color and I paid too much for this sketchbook and I'm going to use every last inch of it, okay? The cool thing about thumbnails is if you make an ugly one, it's so small, the chance of anyone seeing it or caring about it, it's minimal. So fill that sucker with a ton of ugly little sketches and you can find that one diamond in the rough. And don't be afraid to make a ton of little thumbnails and different ideas because you don't know when you create one idea if it'll lead to another and you'll end up with something so much better at the end. I know personally I always like my first or second best, but it has happened where one has led to another and it's been so much more fulfilling. So have a lot of fun with it and just experiment because this is the time to do that and you can just create so many different ideas all in one small little space. When an idea starts really coming together and I like it, a little bit more than some of the others, I start drawing like bigger detailed versions of it. I don't actually draw the entire thumbnail bigger at this point. I'm just working on the little details. So like I really liked the pose of me and my dog in this one. So I drew it a bit bigger, sort of fleshed it out, see if I really did like it. Because sometimes it can look good tiny and when you transfer it to a bit bigger, it can be, you're not entirely sure where all the body parts go, So that's why I'm putting it onto a little bit of a bigger size and I see that I really, really like it, but I'm still not 100% on that idea, so I make some more. This isn't really a tip for your first page, but it's also kind of a tip just for sketchbooks. It can add interest since I'm drawing a bunch of square thumbnails, adding these more detailed versions of the elements inside the thumbnail, create more visual contrast and make the sketchbook more visually pleasing. Those are just words I learned in school. I don't know. I think it's a good thing, right? Oh, and this, yeah. You'll notice I'm working on like 2-page spread thumbnails. Like there's always 2 squares squished together and then it says, welcome to my sketchbook. I was so excited about having a sketchbook, that wasn't spiral bound and I was going to be able to draw across the 2 pages that I overly ambitiously thought that my page 1 would have a 2-page spread. But after I had, formulated an idea and I turned the page to work on it, I realized that the one half of the page is going to be yellow and the right-hand page is going to be white, and I just didn't really want to extend a design across that. I wasn't feeling it, so I had to go back to my thumbnails and make a square one. So I basically just took the design I liked best about the 2-page spread and just squashed it into a 1-page, which I'm a little disappointed about, but it's fine. We gotta work within our limitations. That's what makes us artists. This next tip kind of goes along with the entirety of the last tip of thumbnailing, and that is how to come up with ideas for your first page. So maybe you're brainstorming while you're doing your thumbnails and it feels more like a brain drizzle. Well, I have a few things that I include in every page of every first page of my new sketchbooks. It's kind of like a theme or a go-to that I can always go to. It keeps the decision process pretty simple, and I think when you're starting a new sketchbook, we all just overthink it, so simple is good. My first suggestion is to, if you can't think of anything else, is to draw yourself. I like to draw myself with a big smile on my face and just welcoming people to look at my sketchbook, welcome to my sketchbook. You can surround yourself with your original characters. I've done that in the past. You can draw yourself with your pet, which is what I'm gonna do this time. Even though I always draw myself, there's just so many different ways you can draw yourself, so it's not gonna get boring, and I feel like it's just a very simple go-to. Another thing I always include, since I'm welcoming people into my sketchbook, I like to make it painfully obvious with a speech bubble, saying it explicitly, welcome to my sketchbook. So you could try that in yours if you'd like. I actually kind of stole the idea from an artist. What was her name? I don't know, she had a sketchbook and she had this tiny little, at the very beginning, she just drew herself and it just had a little speech bubble and said, welcome to my sketchbook. And I was like, I'm stealing that. I'll have her linked in the description. She actually has a YouTube now, and I think her name's Schmo Draws or something. But I saw this back in the DeviantArt days is when she posted that sketchbook picture. So I've been doing this for a long time, stealing her idea. So now you can steal it as well. Another thing I always include on my first page is the date, and it's got the date I start the sketchbook as well as the date that I finish the sketchbook. And it's important, this is especially important if you're going to put the dates, to leave space for that last date because we don't know when it's going to be yet. I mean, we could set a goal, but we don't know if we're going to reach that. So just leave a nice space to put the ending date in there and make sure your design has room for it. I really like having the date on the first page because I can just open it up and see exactly when I started it and when I finished it, especially if I'm looking for a specific sketch and I kind of remember when it was. So it's just helpful, and I feel like it really helps chronological-wise your work. So definitely recommend that. So I'm hoping now we have a rough idea and a thumbnail, and we know what we want our idea to look like for the first page. So we can start adding it to page 1. I really like color erase pencils, which is what I sketched all my thumbnails in. They're really fun to use because they have so many different colors. But when I'm working on some high chance of error projects like page 1, you really can't beat a mechanical pencil combined with a kneaded eraser. But don't make the eraser do all the work. That's my next tip. Draw lightly. Transfer your thumbnail to your page 1 and make sure that everything is in the right place. Block out the rough shapes. I don't know what I was about to say. The layout is what's important here. Details, colors, and even anatomy can be almost completely ignored at this point. The less there is to erase if you make a mistake, the better you're gonna feel about erasing. Trust me. Whenever I'm erase something that's a big ugly mess, I feel like a big ugly mess. So I think it's psychology or something. Anyway, just make sure all the elements of your design fit on the page so you can start defining everything later. Once I have the shapes and basically placeholders for each of the elements located on the page in the rough vicinity where I want them, that's when I go in and start adding in those details and making them look like actual drawings instead of just little blobs, While I'm working on my first page, I just want to mention another tip I have, which is if you're still nervous about drawing that first page, try and keep it simple. If drawing an ugly first page is really going to deter you from finishing that sketchbook, don't try to show off. End up jumping into a sketch all super overzealous and I draw this ugliest thing in the world and I feel terrible afterwards, okay? And I suggest drawing things you're comfortable with or things you've drawn many times before. It's the first page, make it showcase something you're good at and showcase something you enjoy drawing, or showcase you. It's your first page. Keep it simple, make it fun, get it done, finish that sketchbook, draw lots of art, fun. Which I guess is my last tip, which is just have fun and sketch. In the end, it's a sketchbook. A bad first page isn't going to ruin your artistic future endeavors. Have fun. A sketchbook reflects the artist. We have our ups and we have our downs. Sometimes our page 1s are just as messed up as our Mondays, but that doesn't mean our last page and our Fridays aren't going to be great days, okay? I know a few people that have like such strong first page anxiety that they like to just jump around in their sketchbook and fill random pages until they complete it. I'm not like that. I like to watch the sketchbook slowly fill up from start to finish, and I like to see my progress from page 1 to the final page. So if page 1 ends up poopy, I know there will be better pages down the road. It's called progress, and it's the way of the future, and it's just what happens. So don't sweat it too much. Just have fun. I mean, if I look back at some of my page 1s that I drew when I was 14 and the page 1s that I drew when I was 20, they're different. They progress, they get better. We just, some of them are better than others and not in chronological order because we have our ups and our downs. I guess I already said that. So yeah, I'm just gonna end up repeating myself, but I hope some of these tips were helpful, and I really hope that the one thing you take from this video is that it's your art. And I really love it because you made it and it didn't exist before you drew that, and it's amazing. And just create it. Sit down and do it. It's so cool, right? It went from a blank page and now there's something there. That is the best accomplishment. That's what we love about art. It's just, I love it. Anyway, feel free to share what your page 1s look like with me. Anyway, all the social medias, I don't mind. I really love seeing what you guys draw. It really inspires me to keep drawing and get up and do it, you know? So thank you guys for watching. Good luck with your page 1, and yeah, I'll see you guys all next week, and I hope you have a delicious evening full of waffles.